Welcome to Buzz Talk Business Show. Each episode, we bring you news and interviews with local businesses, discuss business tips and advice on how to get started or the best out of your business. Welcome to Buzz Talk Business Show.
Hello. How are you? How are you?
Sorry, no.
I haven't been on here for so long. It's like, how are you? I'm fine. And we are here with Lucy Lyons. Hello, Lucy Lyons, and you are a author.
I am, and thank you very much for inviting me today.
That's right.
We're super excited to talk about Lucy's book, The Finding Machine.
Oh, hang on a minute. Hello, Tammy.
Hello, Neil.
How are you? How are you?
We're good.
Hello, Jack.
Hiya.
I'm
just haven't had Neil for a while, that's all.
I'm excited to talk about this book because just from reading a very small bit of it, I am intrigued and want to know more. I don't think I'll be able to put it down once I get cracking on this.
Oh, it's brilliant that you say that, and I'd love you to read it. And yes, quite a few people have said they can't put it down, so it's the unputdownable book.
Okay, well, let's start off at the beginning, shall we? So, you're an author. You are an author because you've written a book.
Yes.
You've written a book. Excellent. So you've written the book. When did you start? How old were you? When did you first inspired to become an author?
I've always written from the age of 15. I had an inspirational English teacher at school, and she was a wonderful woman. At times she had been to Oxford and met Tolkien, and it was her love of Tolkien,
Wow.
Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit that inspired me to start writing a fantasy back in the 80s on a typewriter with some carbon paper. And
What an inspiration straight off.
What was it called?
actually can't remember what it was called. It was just lamentable. It was a really bad book.
15, getting in there, and you had the bug started.
I did, and from that point on, I was always writing, and really strangely, I never thought that this would be the thing I would do as a career or for my life. I was always looking at other things like illustration I was interested in, and I loved English and I loved reading. But it just took me so long to realise this is what I should be doing, is trying to, write novels, get them published and get people reading them.
So how many novels have you written?
So this is my first cozy mystery, and I've also got 2 fantasy books which are not yet published, but I'm hoping they'll be published within the next year as well. So.
You're self-publishing, aren't you?
This is a self-published indie book. That's right. Yes, a huge community of us wanting to get our work out there, and we're all very supportive of each other.
So basically, self-publishing is when you pay for it yourself, don't you? You're not assigned to a company or anything like that. What are they called? I can't think what they're called now. Publishing houses.
Yes.
That's the word. You funded this yourself?
Yes. So you are the editor, your agent, your
You have
publisher.
the full say.
You have to do everything. So there are no indie published writers. You only write books. Writing the book is the start of it, and then the rest of it is your networking, and you're promoting it, and you're marketing it and distributing it, and you're doing all of the jobs that a big 5 publishing house would do for you.
Can you tell us a bit more about this book?
So this book is
Because I love this already.
It's a cozy English mystery set in the 90s, and it's my main character is she's a bit of a loser. She's 29 years old, and she's stuck doing audio transcription at a time when people were doing web design and the internet was coming on, and she hasn't moved on at all. And one morning the doorbell rings and she receives an extremely exciting package from the postman, and she thinks it's something really boring from her mother, like a pension pack or some religious literature, and actually turns out to be a machine that her late father built back in the 70s. So she has a mystery of working out, what does this machine do? And then she has the mystery of working out, why did he build it? And another mystery is hidden inside the machine, inside the wiring. And that's a cold case that dates back to the 20s.
Wow. So
And can Alex, the character, follow the dots to solve it?
Yes, indeed. And this is the inciting incident that changes her life. And she's been very stuck in a rut and mourning her father, really. He's been dead for 5 years. And this is the thing where it puts her back in touch with him and what was he doing. And who was he trying to find, and it changes her life forever.
Would you say it gives her some spark, some energy to do things again?
Indeed, the fact that she's running on the cover,
Beautiful cover design.
She comes out of her shell, and her handsome housemate Anthony there as well. He gets reluctantly dragged in to help her, but it changes her life. She's pushed way beyond her comfort zone. With each mystery that she solves, the stakes get higher.
And you've actually mentioned that hopefully there might be more of these books to come.
Indeed, I'm working on the sequel at the moment, which is set the following year, which is 1999, which is a very exciting year for anyone who remembers it. We had the millennium on the horizon, huge celebrations.
The world was going to end.
The world was going to end. The millennium bug was going to ruin everything. But at the other time, there were lots of people were thinking, this is incredible. I've spent part of my life in one century, and now I'm going to be straddling that, and I'm going to be finishing my life in another century.
Yeah, I love that thought as well. I remember feeling like that.
So for my children who were born in 2003, 2004, they'll never have had that experience of being a child of the 70s, the glamorous 70s.
I was talking to my kids the other day about how dial-up used to be. So where you take an image coming in within milliseconds, it's on your screen, you can see it. That would take hours back then.
Going backwards and forwards, going down, yeah.
And I remember a video, very tiny resolution, and it was a very small video, about a minute or so, nothing longer than that. That would take the whole weekend to download. I remember BT going, penny a minute, next Friday, this next Sunday.
What we call a thumbnail now is literally what we watched.
Yeah.
It was so small.
No, exactly right. Yeah. Quality was low, but it took ages to download.
So that sounds like it'll be a great time to write from. And as we mentioned briefly before, when we were chatting before you came on, the 80s and 90s are so popular at the moment. And this book, would make a great TV series.
It's brilliant that you say that. People told me I write in a really visual way, so when they're reading it, they can see the scenes and they can imagine them on screen. And I've been really heavily influenced by TV as much as other writing. And I think back to series like Jonathan Creek, for example, in the 90s, which was really, you've got Alan Davies, he's a real amateur sleuth and he's dragged into these cases. And I wanted that kind of magic with it, where he was solving cases using the magician's tricks and things like that. And I wanted her to have the element of magic with this machine that enables her to go off on these great adventures.
That's great. That's great. I mean, and to be honest, this obviously is hopefully going to be the first of many.
Let's see.
Let's see what happens. I mean, we were discussing obviously beforehand about the different covers and things like that you could do, and we came up with what colour is 1999. No, I said Prince. Okay, Jack, you said.
I didn't say anything. I'm quite
No,
my brain now.
Me and Lucy were on blue or green kind of thing. So you've got the
Tammy said
orphans on
Spice
this.
Girls. Tammy said the Spice Girls when 1999.
No, I was thinking of the 90s, late 90s era kind of Spice. Yeah, that sort of thing. That's what comes to mind when I think of the late 90s. I think mid to late 90s. I think of Spice Girls.
Talking about the old days, back a little while, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I was doing stuff for estate agents here, doing the internal views of the house. And there's one place in Lightwater, I walked in to do the 360 view of the house and looked at it and I thought, this has gone back to the 1950s. The furniture, the wallpaper, the tiling. Nothing's changed. It's like, oh my God, I feel like I went back in time.
I'll tell you what, if it's done right, it looks amazing.
Habitat is very much back in now.
Have you seen the fridges they had then? They were amazing.
Yeah, I know. So the more important thing is, where can we buy this book?
Yes.
Well, I'm published wide, so it basically means you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Waterstones Online, Kobo, Smashwords, you can get it all those places. Barnes and Noble, I think, is another place you can get it online. So
if I get my copy online, I read it, we're going to come back in, have another podcast once I've fully read it, and I can get you to sign it. Yes?
Oh, quick question actually. Why did you go down the route of self-publishing, not find a, what you call it?
Publishing house.
Publishing house.
Yeah, so I did go down the traditional route, and there are many interviews online with authors like myself who struggle to make headroads with agents and big publishers. And one of the reasons with this book is it's multi-genre, so although it's a cozy mystery, it's also got a science fiction element, and that was quite hard to sell to agents. So I had my top pick agent. He did get back to me within 3 hours, which I thought was a brilliant sign, and he really liked it, but he wasn't sure how he could sell it because it it wasn't fitting into what, your traditional publisher's looking for, where you have like a Richard Osman book, which is just a cozy mystery, or...
It's a shame they do that, because so many things it's great to have a mix.
Yeah.
Where does this name cozy mystery? Where does that name come from? A cozy mystery. You can imagine sitting down with a book, cup of tea,
By the
some
fireplace.
biscuits by the fireplace.
It'd be great to get a publisher in here and sort of talk about what things changed back in the days to currently now, what our publishers looking for, kind of thing,
exactly.
That'd be an interesting one as well.
So the cozy mystery thing's really exploded in the last, I would say, 7 or 8 years, where the violence happens off screen. So that's one of the things, that there's a community generally of people who helped solve the crime, and they're close knit, and they're not policemen or policewomen, they are amateurs who take it upon themselves to solve the crime. So it fits within that really well.
And what sparked your ideas behind this story? What was it, your inspiration?
Well, I really liked films back in the 70s, and I had quite a boring upbringing. I think a lot of people who grew up in the 70s found the hours tick by rather slowly as a child. And I lived in a very routine-driven household, so I had lots of time where nothing was really happening. So I went into my imagination with books. And sometimes when my dad took me to the cinema, I loved seeing things like Superman, and we were seeing Indiana Jones and Clash of the Titans. And I was thinking, wow, I'd love to make a difference. But, obviously I can't fly. I'm not going to be rescuing children from Niagara Falls and getting the Ark of the Covenant and wresting it from the hands of the Nazis. But what could I do that would really help people, that would be like a superpower, but more British, more low key? And I thought, well, finding things, because I remember my cat going missing in the 90s, and I was devastated by that. And so, we start off with the mysteries of finding people's pets who've gone missing, and people are very attached to their pets. They're like people, they're like, they're part of their family. And then we move on to what happens if a member of your family goes missing. There's nothing worse than not knowing what's happened to them. And that's we build up to that with the book.
And it's inspired. Yeah, wonderful. And have you had to do any other sort of research? Have you, we were talking, we both have a love for the TV series Outlander.
Yes.
And read the books there. And we were talking about the author, how she did a lot of research about Scotland and, the Battle of Culloden and all sorts. Did you have to do some research yourself?
I did, and I had some very, very clever people helping me, especially with aspects of the GPS technology, which was coming in at the time. It was used by the army, it was used by America, but it was still new for the public to use it. And I had to research, as people see as they read the book, that GPS satellite technology is really important to the plot and how it develops, but also things like dial-up internet. And I was looking at what people were looking at on the internet at that time. The dark web, people were very worried about that. That was, as soon as the internet came in, then you got the darker side of it coming in as well. People who didn't want to be part of the normal institutions, they wanted to have off-forum meetings with people and discuss things in a safe space. And then inevitably there was horrible things that came along with that. So I had to research that. Linux, you mentioned that as well, because they wanted to be off-grid, didn't want to use Microsoft software, things like that. Yeah, I did a lot of research into the time and what was going on as well with music. But also, we have to remember, when you write a book that's set in the past, that everything from that year is not generally there. It's people are still using stuff from 10, 20, 30 years ago. And you mentioned,
because it works better than most things these days, we found out.
So when you mentioned the 1950s, that house, stepping back in time, she's living in a house that probably hasn't been touched for 20, 30 years. And the houses she goes to with other people, they're also stuck in time warp. Some of them have got stuff from the 40s in them.
Funny you should say that, because my nan and granddad, I can never remember them decorating. Never remember them decorating. It was like, the house stayed the same all the time they were alive.
My grandparents did, right up until, I think it was about 10 years before they passed, and they decided they just wanted something like minimalistic to have to deal with, because they were the typical have loads of little ornaments. And then my nan got to the stage where she was like, I can't keep dusting and dealing with all this anymore, and she literally got a skip and got rid of pretty much everything and just kept a blank canvas. But up until
I remember at school, it was BBC Micros were the thing for schools, and you had like a little storage space. It was like 3K. That's all you had to store your documents.
Do you remember those discs?
It wasn't.
I've still got some of them.
So people were still using big floppy disks, smaller floppy disks, and I remember with the day I left sixth form college was the day they brought in Windows. So that was a very useful computing A level. That was because and everything I'd learnt was completely redundant. As soon as I stepped out of my classroom, everyone was going mad for Windows and all the other things that were coming in at the time. And the mobile phones was really interesting. I had to look up how many characters could you use to store people's names on your address book, and it was 8 on the old Nokia.
That was actually on the SIM card it stored it, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
I remember you could swap the SIM over and your address book goes, but these days it's not.
No, so it must have been quite fun to do some of that side of things. Did you enjoy it?
I did.
And I'm reminiscing.
I still have got my old Nokia, and I lit up the green screen and had a look on it, and I had an old message from an old boyfriend on it dating back about 15 years, and it was still on there. It was amazing. Wow. Yeah.
I remember because go back when emails came out and stuff. Again, that was very short form character base, and then the mobile phones came on board. The emails then evolved onwards, and then base text messaging was the old email system. It kind of took over. So it kind of old technology being reused. It's like Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi used to be used years and years ago, connecting buildings together. Then it got really bad because it was at that time it was kind of hard work, expensive. It dropped. Now it's Wi-Fi. Now it's Bluetooth.
It just made me realise about mobile phones. Do you remember back in like 99, 2000 when you know when a message was coming through because there would be that funny interference just before it
Oh,
pinged.
yes.
I didn't have any. I didn't have any of this. It was, I had my old Motorola brick.
Yes, you would do.
Which is like that.
I
You could
had one
fling
of
it
them.
from the top of a building and it would bounce.
I've still got it. It's in a box in my loft. That's my retirement
Might be
fund.
worth some money one day.
A couple of weeks ago, that we had the classic car show over in Farnborough, and there was an old car there that had the very old built-in mobile phone in the car, the brick, the big handset.
Yeah.
Was it portable?
No, it's built to the car.
Built into the car.
Because my stepbrother, he bought his first mobile phone. He's like, look at this. And it was a huge brick he carried with a handpiece on it, and it was all like £1.50p per minute to call, and he had that for business, and he was carrying around everywhere. Look, back at the time, it looked, wow, that's good.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know, but the same with a lot of technology now, like with mobile phones and, how good the camera is. In 5 years' time, we'll look at our one and go, wow, that's nothing compared to that now. Yeah. But no, I remember all that, definitely, yeah.
I do remember builders leading the way in the 90s because I never really had a mobile phone, but the builders all had the Motorolas.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the builders, plumbers, electricians, they all had mobile phones.
But back then days, we had choice on networks. We had choice on styles of phones. You had the Nokias, you had the Motorola's. There's loads of choice. I remember every coming up to the end of my contract, it's like I can go for a new style phone. Movies were producing like these kind of phones that came out. You had the Matrix phone. And
I had that. I had that one.
Everyone loved that.
But now it's kind of like, oh, it's an Apple phone. Oh, it's made a slight change there. It's more about what's on the technology rather than the look and the feel.
Yeah.
It's got more colours, but the phone's still the same.
No one cares about the ringtones anymore. They're just, it's not,
that was
it used
such
to be.
a huge thing,
Do you remember when the ring, and obviously when it was real still tinny, but it was like, yeah, I've got this theme and not 2001. Look, I got the Harry Potter ringtone.
Well, Nokia they brought back out again, didn't they? The old, was it 3310, wasn't it?
Yes, that's the one.
Came back out and it had Snake on it.
I love the Snake game.
You should read it just because
some phones they've actually brought that out, haven't they? Yeah. So that you can have it on the newer phones.
So Anthony says to Alex, here's your mobile phone, but don't play Snake on it. You run the battery down.
Yeah.
My I'd say ex-sister-in-law, she worked for Nokia for quite a while, and she was dealing with the phones that were sold to the rich and famous. So they'll go for like 250,000 as a base standard phone. But if they wanted like diamonds engraved into the phone, all that kind of stuff, they could do that, and they got up to like millions of pounds. But I said, what's the actual phone like? It was just a standard phone, but just blinged out massively. Even the metals were made by expensive metals, but the technology itself was very much a box standard you can get from a shop.
Yeah, no, I knew someone who did those blinging cases, and they were gold. They had diamonds on. I
don't think they're gold and diamond in here. I don't think so. No. But I can imagine that definitely gets. There's a lot of reminiscing in here as well for people. I imagine as well.
It's a brilliant time to write about because she's using a fax machine and she's got a fax switcher so that she can switch between the phone line and the fax, and then she's dialing up on that as well as a modem.
What do you call it?
Pager.
Page it,
No, she doesn't page it because nobody talk. Really, she doesn't need to. She's pretty sad. She's sitting
Yeah.
in her room typing, and she has an audio transcription machine which she uses with a foot pedal.
Foot pedal, yes.
See, it's
Yeah.
the good old days. But
How many words per minute can she do?
it's up over 120 for sure.
I don't know if that's a big thing to know in the book, but
Oh, it is. It is. It is. Secretary. My mum was a professional secretary. She went to Slough College, and she could do up to 100 words a minute on a normal typewriter.
And that's hard because you're pushing
they
a
are
manual
hard.
typewriter, and I learnt on a manual. But one of the things she does is she's quite sneaky. She gets paid per 100 words, so she adds everything she hears, no matter if there's hesitations or there's pauses or people repeat themselves or they go, She writes it all down and gets extra for that. So
Yep.
it's the one scene where she's doing that.
I remember the typewriters when they've kind of going back a bit more, where you had to really kind of press them down. They're like big, tall, kind of stalky keys. I think hats off to people who can actually type like so many words per minute on that. That's just like, I enjoy, like
There's some videos on that. If you look on YouTube, I've seen some videos, and it is like, wow. Yeah.
My mum had like long fingernails as well, so she used to type, and then it would, there goes another nail. Yeah, and it was. She used to touch type, and it was absolutely horrendous because but then they had the electric typewriters came in, which made
Yeah.
life a bit easier, and you had an LED screen on them.
Only showing 2 lines or something.
Yes, and then you hit the button, and then it would print out the So,
But it was also the how do you delete. I had an electric typewriter that I wrote my second book on, and you could go back and it would stick over sort of like a...
Little
like
Tipex.
Yeah. Type thing. I remember that.
But
yes.
it is expensive, and you're thinking, I can't keep doing this because I don't want to have to keep replacing it. And you
But
can
you
only
remember
do
how amazing that was when it happened? Like,
Yeah.
wow, we can do that now. Woohoo!
If you think about now, as a writer, you're constantly shifting scenes and you're moving things around, and you think back to people like Jane Austen and
Yeah.
Dickens, and they're writing what you're reading as it happens, as far as I know. Even if they're writing it by hand and making annotations, it's second draft only. They can't be doing third drafts and things like that.
can you imagine
gosh.
that? I don't like that. So can you write it again, please?
I think that's why we've had some of the best things in some ways, though, because you become too self-critical if you're able to do it too much. I think there's a line, but at the moment, as you say, we can get this online, but
Yes.
you are hoping soon. There's a couple of bookstores you're going to see if you can get into as well.
I'm going to try to go round to Waterstones locally and see whether they'll stock it, and that would be great. If they're going to support a local author, it'd be great if it was me.
it'd be nice to have
I
a
think
section
that's
for local authors.
I think it should. I think that would be a good selling point.
There you go, Jack.
Well,
There's a little selection for you there.
when this goes out, I will make sure we tag as many bookstores as we can in it.
Waterstones, Camberley.
Waterstones.
Yeah, definitely.
To you,
Guildford too.
Support local authors.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in
pleasure.
today.
Thank you very much, Lucy.
Brilliant.
And we will look forward to you coming back after Tammy has bought the book
And read it.
and read it.
Yes.
And we
yes,
should bring you
I'm
back
going
as a tech talk more about the technology and stuff as well. We'll
we
remember.
have a wealth of experience here.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you saying? Am I old? Cheeky.
Hi, I'm Alex from SMJ Media Group, and I just want to say a big thank you to all our supporters that have bought us a coffee. Thank you to all the support that you've given us thus far. We've now introduced new membership options on our Buy Us a Coffee website. Being a member allows you to support us monthly, and it allows you to also publish on our many social media pages. Check out buymeacoffee.com/SMJ Media Group. We blog regularly so you can check out what we're up to. That's buymeacoffee.com/SMJ Media Group.